Nick Saban from Alabama. At the conclusion of this press conference, we will have 5 minutes of photo opportunities with Coach Saban and Coach Chris Kleiman from Kansas State, as well as the All-State Sugar Bowl trophy and representatives of the bowl. Following the photo op, Coach Kleiman will hold his final press conference. After Coach Saban makes a brief opening statement, we will open the floor to questions. Please wait for the microphone to ask your question, and please identify yourself by name and media outlet. Thank you.
Well, first off, I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Great time to have gratitude for the year we just had and looking forward to the next year. And I'd also like to thank all the people involved with the Sugar Bowl for the opportunity to play in a great traditional bowl game and for the hospitality that they've offered our players. I think games like this are about players, and certainly has been a great experience for our players to be a part of the Sugar Bowl and in the city of New Orleans. So we appreciate that more than you know. You know, the players that we have here, you know, sort of are representative of our team and what our team is all about in terms of what we want to accomplish, what we want to do to help people be more successful in life because of the character and attitude that they sort of develop as a college student to create value for their future. And I've been pleased with, you know, what our players have done in preparation for this game, as well as how they've represented the University of Alabama while here at this game. We have an opportunity to play a really, really good team. You know, Kansas State is probably is playing as well as anybody in the country at the end of the season this year, winning the Big 12 title, as well as beating a playoff team, you know, to do it. So this is going to be a tremendous challenge for our team, and something that I think if you're a great competitor, you always welcome the opportunity to play in big games against great teams. So preparation has been good, and the attitude has been good with our players. So, you know, hopefully it'll show up on the field in terms of the way we play.
All right, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. Right here in the front on the right side.
Nick Kelly, Tuscaloosa News. In your experience, what is the difference of teams that can close games and players that can make plays in big moments and those who don't?
Well, I think that's kind of a tough question, because I think if you can stay focused on the moment. You know, there was an old statement that I read once that Michael Jordan said, when I play at the end of the game, I never change. I just stay focused on what I have to do on that particular play in that particular moment, and I take advantage of the fact that other people change. So saying all that to say this, that some people have the ability to do that because they have maturity as a competitor that allows them to stay focused on what they need to do in that moment. It's not the circumstance of the moment. It's how, you know, they respond and being able to stay focused in that moment to make plays.
We're going to stay here on the right side.
Jake Stansel, WBRC in Birmingham. Coach, just seeing the level of focus from you and the players, what has made this bowl game so enjoyable to prepare for?
Well, I think sometimes we've been in the playoffs so many times here in the last 10, 12 years. There's only been a few occasions where we have a circumstance where we haven't gotten into playoffs. And I think it's more challenging when that's sort of the goal for what the players work for all year long and came up short, to sort of recenter. You know, your circumstance doesn't really define or who you are. It kind of reveals who you are in terms of how do you respond, you know, to the challenge that we have in the circumstance that we're in. So it's always a little more challenging, but I think that our players have had the right disposition and the right mindset about how they've approached it.
Go to the left side on the third row.
Hey, Coach Saban, Jamal Kennedy, WSFA 12 News, and Montgomery. Sort of a piggyback off of that question, you talked about being grateful and gratitude for the year. You've been to the Sugar Bowl now a couple of times, and you talked about your players enjoying this moment, but for you personally, the satisfaction and the enjoyment that you get out of coming down here and enjoying this moment every year?
Well, I think that the big thing for me is not me personally in terms of how I enjoy it, but the fact that the players get a lot of positive self-gratification for having the opportunity. I think that's what bowl games are all about. It's one of the great things about college football is if you have a good season and you get rewarded by going to a first-class quality bowl game like the Sugar Bowl, that's a great experience for the players. And I think my enjoyment comes from, seeing them having the opportunity not only to play against a great team, but also have some time to enjoy and have an experience that they have surrounding the bowl game.
We're going to do the second row on the right side.
Good morning, Coach. Carrie Osep, NBC out of Birmingham. There's obviously been so much talk, in the recent years in college football, seeing players opt out. You don't have any opt-outs, nor does Kansas State. I'm curious for you, how important is that bought-in mentality for a team as an intangible? Where would you rank that?
Well, I think it speaks volumes of, the character of the players on your team who choose to play because they've been great leaders of the team. They've been great contributors. They've set a good example for their teammates. They care about their teammates. They've been somebody that the players on the team can emulate by the example that they set and how much they care to try to help them be successful for their benefit. And I think it's a great example that the best way to create value for yourself as a player is to play football. A lot of people say, I'm getting ready for the NFL. Well, you're really saying I'm getting ready for the combine. But a lot of the things that you do at the combine are irrelevant to what you do playing football. And that's why some people get drafted in the 6th round, because maybe they didn't do such a good job at the combine, but there's some, really significant thing that they can do to play their position. I use the example of Tom Brady, who didn't run fast at the combine, didn't jump high, didn't bench press a lot, didn't do all the things that they measure at the combine, but he could play quarterback. So I think the way I try to approach it with our players is the best thing you can do to create value for your future is to play really well against really good teams. And I think that's what our players have an opportunity to do. And I'm very pleased that they chose to do this. But I think we have a responsibility and obligation to take out as much risk as possible in terms of, how we ensure the players so they don't have to do it with a lot of concern.
Okay, we'll stay on the right side and go to the middle.
Ed Daniels, WGNO, New Orleans. Coach, do you think the 12-team playoff is the fix that the college game needs, and if so, why?
When you say fix, I don't know what's broke. Let's talk about what's broke first, and then that will determine whether a 12-team playoff fix it. What's broke? Yeah, and even though we didn't have any opt-outs, we have like 10 guys that, they got in the transfer portal. So, and I gave them all the opportunity to play in the game if they wanted to, and they didn't. So I don't know if that's a good thing for players, not to have to stay committed to their team for the entire season. So there's a lot of things in college football, I think, that transfer portal has created a real challenge for all of us in terms of how to manage rosters. Name, image, and likeness is something that I think is great for the players if we keep it in the concept of them being able to do that, and we start using it to get guys to come to certain schools based on how much money they can make. I'm not sure that's the reason that you go to college, is to create value for your future. So that's going to trickle down into high schools in terms of some guys are going to say, I'm not going to play for my team in high school because I'm going to get this much money to go somewhere to go to college. So I think those things are much greater issues that need at least some parameters. And I think that having a 12-team playoff, I said this when we went to a 4-team playoff, it will minimize the importance of bowl games to some degree, and hopefully the bowl games will still be a part of the 12-team playoff to some degree. But I think that from a fan perspective, there'll be 20 teams that people will be interested in toward the end of the season, because there'll probably be that many teams that have an opportunity to get in the playoffs. And it seems from your standpoint, from a media standpoint, I don't mean this in a negative way, all the focus and all the emphasis is on the playoffs. So, and who has the opportunity to win a national championship. So how that gets implemented, I'm not sure. But I think from a fan perspective, that probably is a good thing. But I also think that, you know, fans relate to players. And if players don't have a commitment to a team, that's going to impact how fans relate to a team as well, I think. So all these things are, you know, probably issues that need to be addressed in the future. I'm not sure what the solutions are, but I'm sure there's people in positions, whether it's conference commissioners or, you know, even the federal government, because some of these things have been created by laws and lawsuits. And there's a lot of good in them, but there's also some guidelines that we probably need to institute.
Right here in the front row, left side.
Hey, Coach. Georgia Chambers out of Huntsville, 48 Sports. Going back to the no opted-out players, what message does it send to the younger players, even the recruiting class coming in, having players like Will Anderson Jr. and Bryce Young playing in this game?
Well, I think it goes back to a simple question. Why did you come to Alabama? Now, if you came to Alabama because you wanted to be the best you could be as a person, as a student, and as a player, which is what we try to promote in the program, then this is just another opportunity for you to have a chance to do that in a very competitive situation against a very good team. So, but I do think it sends a very positive message to teammates when the leaders of the team, both guys are captains. One guy was the most inspirational player voted by his teammates. One was the most valuable player voted by his teammates. That they choose to continue to be a part of the team and put the team first. I think it sends a significant message to, you know, all players on our team in terms of the kind of commitment that they have and the example that they set in a positive way for what you can accomplish and what you can do.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. We'll start right here in the front row, right side.
Chase Goodred with the Tuscaloosa News. Coach, you've said many times that you've got, and when it comes to recruiting, you've got certain parameters for size at each position and so forth. So in light of that, when you watch tape of a running back like Deuce Vaughn, who's 5'6" and 175, do you find him fun to watch, even though film study is serious business?
Oh, I think pound for pound, he's probably one of the best players, greatest competitors, toughest guys. So when we say we have parameters, that's all that it means. It doesn't mean that there's not an exception to every rule. You can say a cornerback needs to be 6 foot tall, but there are guys that are 5'10" and 5'9" who go to the Pro Bowl. It's a parameter. It's not a killer. And there's a lot of things that you look at, whether it's, you know, what are the things you do well to play your position? What are the critical factors? What's the criteria? And the size, speed part of it is just, you know, one part of that. Character and intelligence and all those things are a big part of how you evaluate players. And there's no one that we played against all year long that has better competitive character than the guy you just mentioned.
All right, final question, left side.
Aaron Suttles, The Athletic. When they moved the recruiting, early recruiting up, I'm sure they had good reasons for doing so, but it's become sort of the recruiting day now, the signing period. In terms of and in light of the transfer portal, how difficult has roster management become during that time of year?
Well, I think roster management is difficult year-round because what's going to happen after this game? What's going to happen in the end of April? So, you know, basically we have the players can basically change in any of these windows. How many do you know are going to do it or you think might do it, and how do you replace them? It's difficult year-round, not just now. But when we started and said we're going to have an early signing period, many people said, including myself, that that would become the signing period or signing date, which it really kind of has. So there's only a few guys left out there that are going to make a decision in February. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but we also had to move the whole recruiting calendar up because of that, to have guys visiting in the summertime and more guys visit during the season. So the normal time when people used to visit, December and January, is almost obsolete in terms of, we may have one player that's going to visit in January as of right now. I'm talking about high school players. So it is what it is. You have to be able to adapt to all these things if you're going to continue to be successful, and that's what we've tried to do.
All right, thank you, Coach Saban.
All right, I'd like to thank the media. I think you all do a fantastic job of giving our players a lot of positive self-gratification for the hard work that they do and reinforcing their positive performance. And I know they appreciate it, but as a coach who always is interested in the players, I think what you do for them is outstanding, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
At this time, we would like to invite Coach Chris Kleiman to join Coach Saban at the podium along with the All-State Sugar Bowl trophy. We ask all photographers to remain behind the stanchions for the photos.
Check, check. 1, 2. Okay, as I mentioned before, we're going to do stills first. If we can take videos, move to the back. Videos, please move to the back. We're doing stills first. Please give your colleagues an opportunity to get up by the trophy so they can get their good shots. Good morning, Coach Kleiman. If you gentlemen would please stand behind the trophy and shake hands. Okay, if you would please put your hands on your respective helmets.